Hi, everybody, and welcome to round two here at the Sierra Club. We are going to be announcing our second round of endorsements for the municipal election of February 28th. We are so glad that you all can be here. So let's get into it. So first, just welcome. We're going to talk about how we got here. We're going to share our round two endorsements, and we're going to talk about our chances to get involved with phone banks, with canvases, and start putting getting our folks elected. So first, our process really began in July when we started setting up a series of listening sessions and conversations with a lot of terrific partners across the movement for environmental justice, economic justice, social and racial justice. And it was those meetings that really helped inform our questionnaires. You know, really, Sierra Club's Illinois chapter, the thing that we have done best for a really long time is our work in the Illinois General Assembly, is our work down in Springfield. I think that we do really tremendous work and we really lead in a great way down in Springfield. And so getting into city council endorsements in a big way was really new for us. We've endorsed, I think, one alderman for Chicago City Council back in 2015. So it's not really been a focus of our political work. And we really want to make sure the conversations that we have with environmental justice partners and frontline organizations was we care about our aldermen, we care about our alders. We want to make sure that we are electing, that we're endorsing, that we're celebrating and uplifting environmental champions at the city level. And so that's why we wanted to get involved and specifically to lead with a sense of humility. You know, our partners, the ones that you see here, they're doing terrific work and we wanted to lift that up. You know, we see that the great work that Sunrise Movement is doing around the No Fossil Fuel Money Pledge, and we want to lift that up. We see that the great work that the Respiratory Health Association is doing on electrifying buses, the great work that urban environmentalists is doing around density near transit, that People for Community Recovery is doing around building decarbonization. So we were very intentional about engaging with organizations that are really leading this tremendous work across the city and see where it aligns with Sierra Club's values and lift that up in the work that we are doing. Now, let me make the very obvious and very important legal disclaimer that tonight's endorsements, the one we're going to talk about, in no way reflect the organizations that I have just named. These endorsements are only Sierra Club's endorsements, and none of the groups named have approved Sierra Club's endorsements. These are Sierra Club's only. So let's talk about how we got here as well. So we have talked to about 60 candidates in 28 different races for alders, for the city council, as well as for the mayor's office. We made 7 round one endorsements in December, and we're going to be announcing 9 new endorsements tonight. So let's get started. But I do want to go over those round one endorsements. These are 7 terrific environmental champions on the city council. Our city is lucky to have them. We are honored to stand with them, and we're excited to talk about ways that we can get involved with their campaigns and make sure that they are reelected to office. Daniel Espada in the 1st Ward, Jeanette Taylor in the 20th Ward, Rosanna Rodriguez. A few of us were just down at her phone bank last night as our first phone bank, and it was great vibes, great space, just a great environmental champion. Carlos Ramirez Rosa in the 35th Ward, Andre Vasquez in 40, Matt Martin in 47, and Maria Haddon in 49. And some of these folks are going to need our help making sure that they stay in office, and we're going to talk about that in a bit. But now let's talk about our second round of endorsements, starting with the 34th Ward. Ayana, tell us about it.
Thanks, David. Hi, everyone. Ayana Simba, day job working with the Illinois Environmental Council, but I'm speaking right now as a volunteer with the Sierra Club. So yeah, we met with Bill Conway back in December, and overall he was very knowledgeable about the issues that Sierra Club was working on. Previously, he had showed up to different events. He had definitely filled out the questionnaire. He was actively seeking our endorsement. And then even in his own personal life, he's a solar development company owner. He does work on renewable energy finance. He was really, really knowledgeable, especially about walkability, air quality in his ward, and especially the cap on Kennedy. We had a very long discussion about that with him. So I think from just a environmental perspective, he's pretty progressive. Also, just strategic wise, his ward currently sits on the far south side, but once he takes office, it will be moved up 10 miles north, and will encompass most of like West Loop, Greektown, and parts of the Loop. And that's where we do have a lot of Sierra Club members. So it's good to have his support and to have him potentially be in office there. And then finally, the reality is just that compared to his opponent, Jim Scott, he's a real estate executive. Bill just has a lot more money. He has a lot more money. Right now, he's at about 340K and has several endorsements from Labor, Local 150. So he is really in a good position to potentially win. So strategically, it makes sense. And even on from the standpoint of environmental issues, we felt that Bill was very knowledgeable and that he genuinely wanted to get our endorsement and to do some work on environmental issues.
Awesome. Ayanna, thank you so much for telling us about Bill Conley and the 34th Ward. Appreciate you. All right, let's talk about, let's go down to the far southeast side, 10th Ward. Tassine, tell us about this one.
Well, thanks, David. Hey, everyone. My name is Tassine, and I'm a staff member with the Sierra Club chapter, and I work with David occasionally with the Chicago political group. So I am especially excited about our Oscar Sanchez endorsement because my first foray into Sierra Club world was with the Stop General Iron campaign. So if you're not familiar with this campaign, it was a campaign to fight a massive metal shredding facility from relocating from the north side of Chicago to the south side of Chicago, a community that is already overburdened with industrial pollution. Activists successfully got the city to shut the facility down in the north side, but instead of shutting it down permanently, they decided to relocate it and merge it with an existing facility, again, in an environmental justice community, a community that suffers from industrial pollution. Lots and lots and lots of it. So this campaign had a couple escalation peaks, one of which after a couple years of organizing was a hunger strike. And Oscar Sanchez was one of the hunger strikers who committed to not eating until the General Iron operation and construction permits were denied. And I'm not saying that like every candidate that we endorse should go on a hunger strike to win our campaigns, but it does demonstrate a very robust commitment to environmental justice and environmental justice in his own respective community, which is something that I very much admired. So that is Oscar as a candidate. I personally am excited to vote for him and work with his campaign because of what I learned from his organizing. I think maybe not for the first time, but like for the first time in a long time in Chicago, worked really well with environmental justice organizations, us as a Big Green in collaboration with on the ground organizers. We built this really beautiful space where we like shared updates and worked together and worked to mobilize our respective communities for a same goal, shutting down a metal shredding facility and a massive polluter here in Chicago. So all this to say, that's Oscar. I'm excited to canvass for him. I'm excited to phone ring for him, and I hope you guys are too.
Awesome. Thank you, Tassine. Keeping it on the south side, let's move over to the 15th Ward. Charlie, tell us about it.
Yes, good evening. My name is Charlie. I'm a Sierra Club volunteer. The Sierra Club proudly endorses Vico Alvarez for the 15th Ward. Vico, as you'll see, is the best environmental candidate for the ward. Now, here's why the Sierra Club is endorsing Vico. The 15th, unfortunately, has seen disinvestment over the years. While Vico supports 100% of the Sierra Club's policy agenda with specific plans to support environmental justice around the 15th Ward that's crisscrossed by the trucking corridors plus heavy industrial zoning in the 15th. Vico has signed the No Fossil Fuel Money Pledge. She's supported by the People's Lobby, the Chicago Teachers Union, the United Working Families, Cook County Teachers Union, Girls Like Guess, as well as the 33rd Ward Working Families. With Vico's victory, Sierra Club can broaden its coalition and demonstrate Sierra Club's commitment to environmental justice, environmental issues in the ward. Why vote for Vico? Vico has strong ties to environmental justice. She has firsthand knowledge of the daily challenges that her neighbors face. As an artist, Vico has many creative solutions to the ward's problems. By the way, Rosanna Rodriguez, who was nominated by the Sierra Club, endorses Vico's run for the 15th. Let's look at Vico's priorities. You can see them on her website. I challenge you to join her in that website. Work to restore access to holistic health care, adult youth education and jobs, recreational program, and equitable access. Now, sustaining union jobs and a living wage improve the quality of life for her residents. As Alderwoman, Vico will strengthen safety protection for workers, including workers who speak out against discrimination and unsafe practices. Vico believes in education, that all students in her ward in the city of Chicago deserve equitable and full funded schools. Vico is an advocate for a comprehensive approach to a healthy environment. Is key to a healthy community in order to live its fullest, healthiest lives, because we all need clean air, clean soil, and clean transportation. Now, this is not going to be an easy fight. The incumbent in the 15th is Ray Lopez. As many of we all know, he withdrew from the mayor's fight, and with that withdrawal, he has a funds on hand quite sizable. But Lopez is not the solution for the 15th. In fact, if you look at the Illinois Environmental Council ratings, they rate all the alder people. He is down at the bottom. So he definitely is not the answer. So let's hear it for Vico Alvarez, the next alderperson, alderwoman for the 15th. Now, David, help me here. I'm going to call get out the vote. So you ready?
I am.
All right. I'm going to say in English, we're going to do an English one and then in Spanish. I'm going to say, let's go. And then you say Vico. We'll do it twice. Ready? Let's go.
Vico.
Okay, vote Vico. Let's go.
Vico.
All right. In Spanish, I'm going to say vámonos. And you're going to say vota Vico. You got that?
Yep.
Twice. Ready? Vámonos.
Vota Vico.
All right. Vámonos.
Vota Vico.
All right. Hey, you guys did real good without the first try. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day, all.
Thank you, Charlie. I really appreciate that. Thank you for telling us about Vico on the 15th. And now let's move up to the near northwest side, Humboldt Park. Janet, tell us all about the 26th ward.
I will. Hi, I'm Janet. That is a tough act to follow, but I'll try. So we had the great pleasure of meeting with Jesse last month. And Jesse's running for alder in the 26th ward, which, as David mentioned, is most commonly associated with Humboldt Park. I live in East Garfield Park, so nearby neighbor. The seat is currently held by Maldonado, who actually recently announced that he will not be seeking re-election. So that definitely changes the kind of game of this election in the 26th. And probably explains why he didn't respond to David's request to schedule a meeting after submitting a questionnaire. But we're here to talk about Jesse. Jesse has a super compelling background as a community activist and organizer, and that really came through in our conversation with her and kind of her ways of thinking creatively about issues in her ward. Most notably, or one of her more notable roles, has been as Director of Policy and Youth Advocacy at the Puerto Rican Cultural Center. With regard to our Sierra Club, policy agenda and platform, she's, basically 100% aligned. Some areas that stood out when we talked to her were around active transportation and biking infrastructure. And some of the unique issues in her ward being kind of surrounded by other wards that are really kind of, excelling and kind of setting the stage for biking infrastructure, and noticing that some of that might be missing in her ward, which is largely due to just lack of commitment and support from the current alder. And so she's able to really talk to us about ideas that she would have to partner with some of her neighboring wards and alders to increase access to safe biking and protected bike lanes through her area. We talked about extending bike lanes on Augusta, for example. She's also very thoughtful on issues around affordable housing and how that intersects with climate justice. And it turns out that affordable housing and community sustainability is one of her kind of key areas in this campaign. And so definitely encourage you to check out her website, which has a lot more information. But it's no surprise that her ward's been getting a lot of attention recently for high rates of gentrification and displacement concerns, and being a community kind of minded candidate, she's definitely aware of how her community members are feeling about those risks and those concerns, and worrying that they might not be able to continue to live in Humboldt Park affordably. And so we did challenge her a little bit actually on some of the pros and cons of upzoning versus downzoning. And I think she really responded in a way that was, non-defensive, very collaborative, and demonstrated an ability to think creatively about a complex problem like this and how to increase density in a way that works, for her community, and improves conditions for all. So I think it just demonstrated she'd be a really great partner and is able to kind of think outside the box in a way that's still like authentic to her community. And we didn't talk a whole lot about this. It's kind of outside of our environmental concerns specifically, but she's also just like thinking in big ways about how to promote public safety that isn't just about like more money for more cops. She's big on investing in her community, especially in young people and workers. She talks a lot about funding mental health and campaigns like Treatment Not Trauma, and really just believes in supporting her community through healing and through restorative practices. So her experience really shines there, and I think she'll be a really great leader in her community. So we're big fans. She's bold, progressive, community-minded. With Maldonado out of the race now, she does have a couple of challengers still, but she has some very notable endorsements and a strong coalition that she's building. So we really believe in her electability and think she has a solid path to victory. So very excited about her.
Great. Janet, thank you so much for telling us all about that. Really appreciate it. Okay, let's go up to the far northwest side. Let's talk about the 41st Ward. Dan.
Yeah, thanks, David. And thanks, David. Thanks, Janet, as well, for that discussion about Jessica Fuentes. I think there's some overlap there when we go all the way to the far northwest corner of the city in the 41st Ward. So that includes Edison Park, Norwood Park, Norridge, and technically includes O'Hare, although the number of voters in O'Hare is pretty low. So any folks who are on this call who are not strictly speaking in the city of Chicago, but you're in the near northwest side, you could probably relate to the voters that Paul Struben is trying to reach. This includes largely single family homes in the area, and a lot of middle class, a lot of city jobs like police, firefighters, and similar. So with that in mind, Paul is really meeting people where they are. One of the things he is most vocal about is the support for just more biking, walking infrastructure in the city, making the neighborhood walkable and safe for families, expanding the tree canopy, which everybody loves, trees on their block, birds, everything beautiful there. But behind that, Paul also has pretty deep knowledge of policy and is very much on board with the Sierra Club policy agenda when it comes to, not only that sort of green infrastructure that we all kind of enjoy living in, but also infrastructure and development that is transit oriented and that is sustainable. And that is a stark contrast to the incumbent, the only other person running in this ward, Anthony Napolitano, who is tied for the lowest IEC rating. Also, I believe is the only person in city council who broke away from the Democratic Party and currently self-identifies as a Republican. So we have a chance to get rid of who I think is objectively the worst person currently in city council, with a very strong candidate in Paul Strubing. And Paul's been building a lot of momentum. He's got endorsements from a number of Teamsters and other labor groups. And the incumbent, Napolitano, is a bit weak. He does not have a Chicago Federation of Labor endorsement, which he has had in the past. So there is a lot of an opportunity to make kind of a big switch to trade out one of the worst for someone who I think can be among the great champions in city council and Paul Strubing. So hope folks will be excited to get out and support him.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for telling us about Paul in the 41st, and thank you for the work that you're doing. Let's move over to the 44th ward. Tell us about it, Nicole.
All right. Thanks, David. So Bennett currently serves as the chief of staff to the current 44th ward alder, Tom Tunney. Tunney decided he's going to retire at the end of his term. He's not going to seek re-election to city council, which has made way for Bennett to run for the open seat. Currently, Bennett is the only candidate running in the ward, and he's almost certain to become the next alder. So we're really excited to be endorsing him and working with him in the future. From our conversation with him, I can say that Bennett is overall pretty aligned with our agenda and seemed really open to continuing conversations in areas that we didn't quite see eye to eye. In our conversations, we talked to Bennett about the Connected Communities Ordinance, which was a piece of legislation that passed last year with our support. The ordinance promoted greater housing density and affordability near transit. And one of the changes that was made was the exclusion of 3 flats right near transit. When we brought this up with Bennett, he did explain that he had some similar concerns about a requirement being used to downsize parts of his ward, but he is really interested in working with us to find a path to set minimums for density near transit with a revised ordinance, and work with us to get that going. We also talked to him about our concerns around active transportation needs in the ward and the need for protected and accessible infrastructure. We talked a lot about the resurfacing of Belmont Avenue, which many biking and active transit advocates have expressed their frustration about, around the absence of physical protections for bike lanes. And Bennett explained to us that CDOT actually didn't talk to the community or Tunney's office at all before starting things. Otherwise, Bennett would have encouraged them to build a protected bike lane. So we know we're on the same page with him there, and look forward to getting that done for future bike lanes. Lastly, we talked to Bennett about accessibility issues in the ward, especially at crosswalks at busy intersections. And Bennett shared his plans to promote walkability and rollability in the ward, including a plan to identify problematic crosswalks and solve that with rumble strips, curb bump outs, and audible crosswalks. Bennett has been endorsed by most of the elected officials in his ward, including current alder Tom Tunney, Representative Ann Williams, and Senator Sarah Feigenholtz. He's also been endorsed by the Chicago Federation of Labor and the LGBTQ Victory Fund. As I said earlier, he has no current opponent and is pretty likely going to be our next alder in the 44th. So we're really excited to endorse Bennett and continue working with him in the future.
Cool. Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate it. All right, let's move on up the Lakeshore to the 46th ward. Tell us about this one.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Murphy. I had the pleasure of interviewing Angela Clay. So this 46th ward encompasses Uptown, Graceland Cemetery, Buena Park, and, has a good chunk of the Lakeshore in it. And so, really relevant to a lot of the issues on our questionnaire. Angela was a pleasure to talk to. She's a generational resident. Her grandparents live there. Her mom lived there. She lives there. So she has really deep connections in the community. And she did actually run in 2019, and she almost made the runoff. Not quite. She just snuck behind in that 3rd place spot. And so she's back running again with much better campaign infrastructure, really good ground game. And, she's an organizer at heart, as evidenced by her being the founder of Voices of Youth in Chicago Education. This is a youth organizing alliance for education and racial justice, which is led by students of color across the city of Chicago and Illinois. And I think, her questionnaire, in my opinion, it was 100% in line with Sierra Club's policy agenda, but also she left really thoughtful comments that were really on message, really aligned with, the vision for the future that we see as well. And we had a really great conversation that really demonstrated her deep knowledge of the ward that she lives in and the environmental, impacts that occur there and priorities across the city. We particularly talked about housing affordability and houselessness in her ward, which is a fairly big issue, and how she already is having conversations to kind of try to find that balance between the push for real estate development, but also, environmental priorities and affordable housing. So she has a really interesting intersectional approach where she does a great job tying in different areas to parts of her campaign, which I loved. We talked about, other things, recycling, composting, community gardens, plastic reduction. She expressed an openness to creative solutions, and in particular, she was really committed to being a partner with Sierra Club and with the environmental justice organizations. As you can see from this very long list of endorsements, she has a lot of really important EJ partners, really important groups that are providing her endorsement. Very impressive. And I'm excited that we're adding ours to that list as well, because she's in quite a crowded field for this election. The incumbent, James Kappelman, he's retiring. So there's a very tough battle among a number of candidates with a lot of money, and it's likely going to reach a runoff. We also interviewed one of her opponents, Marianne Lalonde, who we all liked a lot. We all had a great conversation with her, but ultimately Angela was just the stronger, more progressive candidate. And I think she's really going to need our support in this race in order to make the runoff and win the runoff. So very pleased to put our stamp of endorsement for Angela Clay.
Kristen, thank you very much for telling us all about Angela Clay in the 46th. Moving just up a little bit further up the Lakeshore, let's talk about the 48th Ward. Adam, tell us all about it.
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Adam Turner. And I'm happy to announce Nick Ward's endorsement here for Sierra Club. Really enjoyed talking to him when we did. He stood out as a candidate that aligned pretty much entirely with the Sierra Club agenda, and he's made environmental justice a central tenet of his campaign. Not just like a bullet point on his website, it really is like a central tenet. He's also running a really very strong campaign. So I think that's resulted in him being the most electable candidate right now, which is always good when the sort of environmental champion is also the most electable candidate. He also began his campaign, I think, long before Harry Osterman, the current alderman, announced his retirement. So this was back in last February. And he was ready for a showdown until the bandwagon of other candidates hopped on. So I think there's something to be said about Nick's tenacity and sort of eagerness there. He's lived, just some background, he's lived in Chicago for almost 20 years, in the ward for about 4. And the ward is essentially Edgewater, just for context. So right along the lake there, Lakeshore Drive. But more background on Nick, he's worked in the performing arts, the restaurant industry. He's been active with the ward's IPO called 48th Ward Neighbors for Justice, which he's used as a strong base of support, and they've contributed financially in a big way. Although you'll see he has various diverse organizational support there in the third bullet point, some good EJ partners. So yeah, from his background and experience, he's definitely uniquely connected with the ward in his community. As far as like some environmental policy items go, as a lakefront alder, he would be a key supporter of the wind turbines on Lake Michigan, and then fundamentally restructuring disabled Lakeshore Drive to make room for easier access to the lakefront. And that would be shared park space, trails, nature reserves, bus only infrastructure. He's also a strong supporter of decarbonizing every building in Chicago, which is kind of a hot button issue right now. So there's definitely some opponents to something like that, especially from like the conservative labor trades. But Nick's proven he's an elite mobilizer, so there's no reason to believe that can't be done. And then lastly, he's really strong on affordable housing in the ward, and then boosting local schools. I think I forgot to mention he's a representative on a local school council as well. And he said, so in line with that, he said he'll only approve developments with at least 20% affordable units on site. And I guess in summary, he's in a good position, got a strong ground game. Like I said, and a lot of broad support. So even though he's in a solid position to win this race, I know we have a lot of members in the 48th ward. So this is a good opportunity for us to kind of show what Sierra Club can do and make a powerful statement for a potential first-time alderman. So happy to endorse Nick Ward.
Adam, thank you, thank you. And let's talk about last but certainly not least, the 50th ward. Andrew, tell us all about this one.
Yes, so Munez is the challenger to the incumbent Deborah Silverstein. We met with both of them, first with Alderman Silverstein. She, as you can see here, she has one of the lowest IEC ratings. She voted for the General Iron relocation. She couldn't explain why she voted for it. She's just overall a pretty bad candidate, but she does have a lot of money, and she is in one of the few wards where having an endorsement from Rahm Emanuel is actually a benefit, and she openly bragged about having Rahm's endorsement. So we were kind of worried about that because we hadn't heard much about Munez, and then we finally met with him, and we were very impressed. You know, as we said earlier, you know, we had candidates fill out questionnaires. You know, he agreed with, you know, he has the same goals as us and pretty much all of our partners do. I don't think he didn't have anything different. You know, he wants to, you know, get renewable energy in, expand public transportation, expand, you know, wind energy, everything we want. And also we were very impressed with his campaign infrastructure. And that was like really the big thing, was for someone taking on such an incumbent like her, it was important for us to see what kind of infrastructure he had. And he had a really good one. He had plenty of volunteers. He had lots of, he had a few paid employees. He was fundraising good. And he was really going out there and engaging with the community, like really, you know, every day having, you know, he's knocking on doors, other people are knocking on doors. He's got, you know, a really strategic plan for each small little neighborhood in the ward. We were very impressed with how he was running this fight. So we figured, even though he is kind of a long shot, we thought he was a really good endorsement with everything, with his policies and his campaign infrastructure. It made sense for us to endorse him.
Andrew, thank you for telling us all about Louise in the 50th ward. So those are all of our endorsements for city council for round two. And so let's talk about the mayor. We are not going to be making any endorsement before February 28th, and nobody is more disappointed about that than myself and the other volunteers who met with all the candidates. So we met with 6 candidates. We got 6 questionnaires from mayoral candidates, and we spoke with all 6 of them. This was on Saturday the 7th. And so when we are considering an endorsement, there's really 4 factors that we look at in order of importance. It is policy, you know, environmental policy, the coalition that they are building, our relationship, Sierra Club's relationship to them, and then their path to victory. So breaking each of those down, who is it that is the most aligned with us on Sierra Club on policy on the questionnaire? It is Cam Buckner and it is Brandon Johnson. They have perfect alignment. They agreed with everything. If policy is the only thing that we're looking at, the only factor they were looking at, it would be either Cam Buckner or Brandon Johnson. We enjoyed our conversations with both of them. We really like their policy. We really like their vision. We're really impressed with the way that they were able to articulate their support for our policy platform. So we were really impressed with those folks on policy. On the coalition that they're putting together, we really like the coalition that Brandon Johnson is putting together. He's got the most progressive labor unions in town. He's got the most progressive elected officials. A lot of the organizations that Sierra Club, you know, hangs out with, that we want to hang out with, a lot of the elected officials that we have endorsed and that we want to see get elected in office, they are supporting Brandon Johnson. So, you know, so those are the first 2. Then relationship, you know, what is Sierra Club's relationship like with them? And by far, we have the best working relationship with Cam Buckner. He is one of our best allies down in the Illinois General Assembly. He's the chair of the Illinois House Black Caucus. We work with him very closely. He has been instrumental at passing incredibly important environmental legislation, including CJUP. You know, like arguably would not have been able to get across the finish line without Cam Buckner's support in Springfield. But Sierra Club has a terrific relationship with Chuy Garcia in Congress. He is there for every single environmental bill. He is a co-sponsor of every bill that we can think of, that our partners can think of. He has a terrific League of Conservation scorecard rating. We have a great relationship with him. So if it was going to come down to relationships, it would be, those are the two closest relationships that we have. Not that we have bad blood with the other folks. We hadn't really met with Brandon Johnson, for instance. We hadn't really met with Sophia King before then. Relationship, it was either Brandon or it was, it was Cam Buckner or it was Chuy. And then Path to Victory. You've seen the polling. You've seen the fundraising. You've seen the endorsements. You see how this race is shaping up right now. Things are a little bit in flux, but I think for us, we were pretty concerned with that no candidate who we felt like was really good on policy is putting together a coalition that we're really excited about, that we have a good relationship with. Nobody has the clearest path to victory. We can always endorse an underdog. We've endorsed a few underdogs before. We're happy to do it. But right now, as in the state of the race as things stand now, we don't see a good alignment on somebody who's great on policy, somebody who's putting together a great coalition, somebody we have a good relationship with, and somebody who has a clear path to victory that we can endorse at this point. We want to focus on the 16 endorsements that we have that we've made. We want to focus our energy there because there's a lot of phone banks we're going to be talking about, a lot of canvases we're going to be talking about. We want to focus there, let the field clear up a little bit, because I don't think anybody expects that this is going to be decided February 28th. I think it is a pretty universal expectation that this thing is going to go to a runoff. And so, I can tell you that the volunteer team, we've already got a meeting scheduled for March 1st. We are going to be meeting that day. We're going to be talking about the state of the race. And we hope to make an endorsement for the March runoff. So not able to make one now, but, disappointed, but that is why. But we do think that this gives us a chance to focus on the really terrific opportunity that we have in the Chicago City Council. We think that there are some really terrific candidates who are already there that we want to keep in office, and we want to send new folks to join them. And so we've got 16 endorsements that we're incredibly excited about. So this information, by the way, is embargoed until 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. That's when the press release is going to go out. That is when the social media blast is going to begin. That's when the candidates have been told, all right, we can start getting the word out. So you're going to start seeing newsletters. You're going to start seeing emails. You're going to start seeing campaign lit, phone calls, emails, texts from the campaign starting at 8 a.m. tomorrow to let the public know, hey, Sierra Club has endorsed these folks, and we are just incredibly excited about the opportunity that we have before us. We know that there is work to be done to get them elected. We know that a lot of these folks are in really tight races. A lot of them are underdogs, and we need to make sure that we put in the effort. We need to make the calls. We need to send the texts. We need to knock the doors to get them elected. And so I want Tassine to come and tell us about how we're going to get these incredible environmental champions elected.
Yeah, like David said, the way that we're going to get these folks elected is through direct voter contact. Like, we can do all of the social media posts as we want. They're really important. However, the way that we're going to convince people to vote for these people is to talk to them. So we typically do that in two ways. One, phone banking, call some numbers. Well, get a list, call some numbers, make a phone call, introduce yourself, tell them a little bit about why we endorse these candidates, what we see in them, what they can bring to our city, etc. Directly ask them if we can count on their vote, yes or no. And then, you know what, if they're still on the line with you, you can make another ask them to volunteer. And believe it or not, people are more likely to say yes than you would think. Second type of voter contact is canvassing, knocking on doors. I personally prefer canvassing to phone banking. I'm very good at inserting myself in conversations and asking people to take time out of their day to talk to me, or if I could talk at them. Typically, during canvasses, you meet up with the canvas organizer, and okay, yes, sorry. Typical canvas looks like meet up with the campaign organizer, usually at like a Starbucks or McDonald's, something really random. You get a list of addresses to hit up, and you just get a buddy and start knocking on doors and talking to regular people about the issues in their ward and why voting for our endorsed candidates will be beneficial for our city. And so we kind of came up with a tiered list of who will be phone banking and canvassing for. I will be putting sign up links in the chat. So the first canvas will be with first word endorsed candidate Daniel Espada. That's going to be on January 28th. And then on 30th, we will have an in-person phone bank for Alder Rodriguez. After that, we will be phone banking for Angela Clay, 46th Ward. After that, we will be canvassing in my ward for Andre Vasquez.
Awesome. Thank you, Tassine. And actually, so Dan DeMeo and I, we got to meet for the first time in real life after years of online organizing. We got to meet for the first time yesterday at what is now going to be a weekly phone bank with Rosanna Rodriguez and the 33rd Ward Working Families. Dan, do you want to talk about like the excellent vibes, the excellent food, like the excellent good time that is phone banking on Mondays through the rest of the election with you and 33rd Ward?
Yeah, who would have thought Monday night phone banking could actually like lift your spirits, but it does. It's a good group of folks, and being there in person, it might seem weird at this point if you've spent a few years with all your activism online, but actually getting together and being in one big office and everyone kind of separating out to make a little bit of space, but being on the phones together so you can kind of overhear some of their conversations with others, hearing how things are going, celebrating, finding someone who's a big supporter, or maybe even getting someone to commit to vote who didn't know a vote was happening. Really making a difference in a ward where, for instance, in 2019 in the 33rd Ward, Rosanna defeated an incumbent by less than 20 votes. It was 6,000 and something to 6,000 and something, and I think she won by like 17 votes. So if you go out one night and make 30, 50 phone calls, and a handful of people hear you and you tip the scales in their favor to vote, you really have a chance to make a difference in the campaign. So that's really cool. Feeding off of everyone's energy is great, and getting to be there in real life and also enjoy some good fresh pita bread and falafels with everyone at the end is a pretty nice bonus too. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Cool. Thank you, Dan. And thank you for being our campaign liaison to Rosanna's campaign. We're incredibly excited about that. We love the work that you're doing. So I can tell you all that our Sierra Club's plan is that we are going to be organizing a phone bank, ideally at least one phone bank a week, in addition to Dan's phone bank. Every week, and then every Saturday between now and April 4th, we are going to be organizing a Saturday canvas. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reaching out to you all on a weekly basis to let you know about the different opportunities that there are to get involved. But you can plan that there's going to be at least one weekday phone bank, and there's going to be at least one Saturday canvas every week from now. Start to April 4th, to the runoff election. So the very first event that we're going to have is going to be this Saturday. It's going to be in the first ward with Daniel Espada. People's Lobby is also going to be there, one of our great coalition partners. We want to be able to show up in a big way for Daniel. He is in a tight race. He's got three challengers, all of whom have raised over $100,000, all of whom are running pretty strong campaigns against him. Daniel is one of the best environmental champions that we have on the city council. We think he has been a terrific ally to Sierra Club. He's been an excellent ally to our environmental justice and progressive partners. We want to keep them there, and we want to start our canvassing. This is the first canvass we're doing of the election cycle. Will be this Saturday in the first ward. We want to make sure that we show up in a big way. So I'll drop the link again so you guys have it. I'll also be sharing these with you tomorrow. But our goal is that you come out of this with just one event that you've RSVP'd to sometime in the next 2 weeks. So all the events that we're talking about, all the links that we're dropping, they are going to be happening sometime over the next 2 weeks. So our goal, come out of this meeting with at least one event that you have RSVP'd to. And we're pretty agnostic about which one. Maybe you're really excited about Daniel Espada in the first ward. I hope that you are, and I hope that you can join us this Saturday. Or Dan, we're going to get this weekly phone bank set. We're going to get this like weekly event set up. So he's going to be there every Monday. I'm going to be popping in and out. He needs help. He needs company. We want to make sure that we have a good turnout every Monday for Dan's phone banks at the 33rd Ward office. We think they're doing terrific work. So please sign up to join him next Monday. Next Tuesday, we're going to be doing that virtual. Again, we're going to be doing, this is a virtual phone bank. We think that one of the strengths that we have is that we have a ton of members in the 46th Ward. We know that this is a wide open race, and we want to make sure that all of our members, all of our supporters know that Angela Clay is the candidate that we're endorsing. She is the most progressive environmental champion. We want to show up. So that one, something we're also trying to do is try and mix in-person activities with virtual activities. We know that not everybody can show up to every space, to every organizing opportunity, and we want to meet people where they're at. If you prefer the virtual opportunities, let's keep that party going. Next Tuesday, January 31st, that will be a virtual phone bank. But we also want to have those in-person activities as well, a chance for us to take our organizing offline. So whatever is best for you, just RSVP to at least one event. And then next February 4th, Alder Andre Vasquez, we're going to be doing our second campaign, our second canvas of this election cycle for Andre in the 40th. So those are all the things that we have a chance to, those are all the opportunities that we have to get involved with right now. Please RSVP to at least one of those. But otherwise, that's all that I have. That's all that we have. I love a meeting that wraps up early. So that's all we got, unless